Hello everybody and welcome to race number 5 of the Night Racing League Sports Car Championship. We are at Daytona for 2 hours, and this time instead of the night race we had in Season 1, it is the daytime race, actually 9 a.m. sim time when we started the practice session. And we're just finishing that up right now. And we'll get to qualifying in just a second. Time enough to look at the points. In LMP, it is Dennis Rotter with a sizable lead of 42 points ahead of Andre Heinrich and Andreas Schwarz. Thomas Brommel, his teammate, full of bad luck this season, 66 points back. But the Unleashed cars are here and the Switch It cars are not. It's time to even up the points. Paul Seeley, Philip Stritter, Keith Rainey, Dean Ellico, all fighting for that top 5 position as well. In GTE, Jennifer McDonald leads by 14 points over Jens Wolters. Something going on at this weekend as we have no Jens Wolters as well. Hayden Fowler is here. Seninger, Wolters' teammate, also missing this race. Groningen Hensel are here, and we'll see a GTE kind of change in the points, I suppose. As qualifying gets underway in LMP, there is Andreas Schwarz in the 204. Following out the Unleashed cars of Dennis Rotter and Thomas Brommel. You can see we've got 30 minutes on the clock. This is a 2-hour race here today, and that means 15 minutes of qualifying instead of the 10 that we have had in the 90-minute races. And there's the Canadian Paul Seeley in the 72. Six LMPs today, which is a little disappointing. We had some last-minute cancellations for various reasons. There are spots available, and the league is looking to fill them, so working on that very hard. 3 races remaining in the Season 2 Championship, and we'll have an announcement during this broadcast to what's coming up in the summer months and what the plans are. As up out of the way, we see Dawson Hess, who's finally going to try and get through a race here. He has been on circuit once before and then actually hurt his ankle in qualifying. Wasn't able to take the start, so hopefully Dawson will be on the grid today. As the cars all start their first hot lap, and off the bat, Andreas Schwarz pushes it off in turn number 1. Seeley will go by. Not sure if that compromised the Canadians' cornering speed there. It was well out of the way, but it's always a little disconcerting when the car in front of you is sliding about. Canadian through the kink and down into turn number 5. And around again goes Schwarz. It's a little cool here. 20 degrees to start the session is the track temperature. Sim time right now is just about 9:35 a.m. But it is bright and sunny, and we're expecting those track temps to come up as we run the session. The race session will go right up until high noon here in Florida, as Hess and Brommel come through the bus stop. And we'll get our first times here. Hess is fast in the first sector. We've got 6 sectors around this circuit. Thomas Brommel in the 3rd sector is quick. And as the times start to come up, we're in the 32s right off the bat. Brommel on provisional pole ahead of Rotter, Hess, and Seeley. Here comes Schwarz, but that won't be a good time with those two little offs of 140, so don't take any stock in that. Andreas on a better lap for sure. Dean Ellico crosses the line with a 34.7. And terrible news again if you keep track of the Night Racing Esports team. Keith Rainey, again, not able to run today with internet troubles in the southwestern United States. All set to join up, got out of bed, and once again could not connect to the server. So another reason why the LMP class is a little short today. We'll hope to have everybody back for the next round as we cross the pond, and we're at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit for the next race. Brommel still picking up the tow from the 67 car, although it looks like he drops back a little bit there. Green sectors by most of the drivers. Brommel a purple sector in sector 4. And that's likely due to that tow. You can see he's got right back up on the back end. Rotter and Hess both improve. And it's Brommel on pole with a 32.504. And Hess lets him go. Schwarz now with the representative lap time, 33.526. Puts the German inside row 3, along with Dean Ellico. A 33.153 for Seeley, who's looked a little more competitive than in a few of the races. He loves this circuit. And he's got a 0.4 gap up to Dawson Hess in the 67 car. Just based on practice times, I think with this group of cars here, we're probably going to have 3 and 3 if pace is any indication. And I really need a good day here from the 4 car. It's been 3 straight races of disappointments. Pole positions, fast laps, but no results. Mostly not due to his own making, but certainly the last race, Thomas had some issues that really were of his own making the one time. So Thomas needs a good result here. He's coming into the pits. A lot of these guys will split the 15-minute session into 2 fuel loads and get some fresh boots on. So the 4 car into the pits, provisional pole by a little under 0.2 of a second. Rotter and Hess very, very close. And here is Dawson using every millimeter of the circuit. Seeley also coming in for some fresh tires. It's a big gap, almost 0.4 from Seeley to Schwarz, so I'm sure it's going to watch that gap. No rush coming out of the pits for either he or Brommel, so maybe they're happy with their times at the moment. A 0.4 gap from Seeley to Schwarz, and then it's 0.7 from there to Dean Ellico at the moment. There is Andreas. And Dean Ellico in the second of the Night Racing Esports cars here today. And that is the full Daytona 24 livery he's got on there. So both cars with the same paint schemes. And Brommel has come back out. So the 4 car going to go for one more. Rotter hits the pits now in behind him. And we'll see. Rotter has improved. Well, still 172 behind. He's got time to get tires and go out for maybe a 1 or 2 lap run. Schwarz improves to a 33.2. So we'll see what that does to Paul Seeley's thinking. He's still in the pits. But that gap now, 0.5. with Andreas still on there. Sector 1 is not an improvement, and actually is not very competitive. So I think Andreas is off the pace. He may be coming back to the pits. Yeah, another second off the pace in Sector 2. So I'm going to expect the 204 car into the pits. And Seeley is coming out. Yeah, there is the 72. So coming out to defend that lap time. Fresh tires and a little over 5 minutes remaining in the LMP portion of this qualifying session. Dean Ellico, a green sector 3. 3 of 6. He's now on the back straightaway coming down to the bus stop. Rotter back on circuit. There he is. So he's going to be taking a run at that pole position. And Seeley on an outlap. Dean Ellico has put in a green sector 4 as well. As we expected, into the pits goes Schwarz. Here comes Ellico out of NASCAR 4. And this could be a good lap. He does not improve. A 10th off of his best time of 1:34.279. Andreas is in the pits. Seeley has gone out to defend that row 2 position, so we'll see what happens. There's still time for Andreas to come out and take a run at that. As Seeley has started his hot lap, green sector 1. So looking to improve. To get into the inside of that row 3 would take a 4/10 of a second improvement. But it's green sector 2 as well. So the Canadian on a good lap here as he heads out of 5 down to turn 6 to go on to the banking. 10:08.58. That's not a bad sector. That's just a 10th off of Rotter's best in sector 3. So this is a good lap coming up here. Schwarz is still in the pits, so Seeley may be out defending something that's not in jeopardy. .24.686 in sector 4. That is on pace. Again, just a 10th off of Dennis Rotter's best time in that sector, and equal to Brummel's last sector 4. So coming around to complete the lap. And it is an improvement, a 33.063 for Seeley. And he gives himself a 10th and a half as he boffs up turn number 1, but he's improved the time, and Schwarz, I don't believe, is going to be coming back out, so that's going to solidify row number 2. A 32.504 currently the pole time. Both Rotter and Brummel are out there, but nothing spectacular as far as sector times. There's Dennis now in Daytona 2, and 3 yellow sectors, so no improvements on his best time. Dawson has into the pits. As we have 2 minutes remaining, we'll start to see GTE cars. They are already finding their way to the end of pit road. There's Hayden Fowler. Seeley is off the pace, so he's coming back to the pits. Probably aware now that Andreas is not out, and so is Rotter. So I think the grid is pretty much set. Thomas Brommel on pole with a 1:32.504. Dennis Rotter will line up alongside as the teammates have another chance to fight this one out all day. A 32.621 for Dennis. Dawson Hess on the grid inside row 2 with a 132.773. With this car, Paul Seeley in the 72, a 133.063. Brummel stays out. He was not on an improvement there. 32.626, so not bad. A 10th off of his pole time. Row number 3 is Andreas Schwarz with a 133.212 ahead of Dean Ellico, a 134.279. And unfortunately, that is all we have today. Spoke to both Andre Heinrich this morning and Keith Rainey, of course. Oliver Schlabs just had a scheduling issue, of course, new to the league, and you can't just put your life on hold. So there's 3 regular LMP cars that should be here that aren't for various reasons, and unfortunately, it's only a 6-car class rather than a 9 or 10-car class like we're used to. Thomas, who likes to run it right down to the last bit of fuel, is now limping around the track to get it back. No teleporting, and as a 15 minutes right on it is Kevin Hensel, just squirming his car out as the 15 minutes go by, and he will be the first on track here in GTE. And who's that behind him? That looks like Marcel Struff in the 78 BMW. It is indeed. There's Marcel ahead of Max Riebensteiner, finally making his GTE debut. You remember Max from LMP in Season 1. Spectacularly fast driver. Has had some work issues. I mean, people have got to work, right? And, but he's here today to make his GTE debut in the Night Racing League Sports Car Championship. We expect that car to be up at the sharp end of the field. Thomas Brommel makes it back to pit road. All the LMPs are in the pits. And we've got a gaggle of cars here. That is Chris Costa, Hayden Fowler. In behind that's Leighton Cater making what we are told is a one-off here. Leighton, of course, runs the Corvette program at Night Racing Esports. Has done a spectacular job with setups and getting that team organized. The level of detail is through the roof, and Leighton with an afternoon free, which is very rare for him, and he's going to run here at Daytona. In behind, that's the Ford GT of John Dinkle, who, after getting his feet wet here in the league, has really put some strong performances together and is starting to make his way up the GTE point standings. Looking for another good run here today at Daytona. As everybody is around, and we start our first hot laps in the GTE class. And a little wide, and through turn 1 goes the 199. Looks like he got right back on. Didn't even see any tire smoke, so may have cost him a little time. And you can see Jonathan Dinkle now is right up on him, so a little bit of momentum loss there. Hello to everybody on YouTube watching. We were a little delayed in this broadcast, and boy, I never expected such an outcry, but we got the whole race up for you here. The 78 car, that was Struff, just losing it a little bit out of 5 and letting this pack through. No harm, no foul, although I see a yellow flag now in turn 6. He has gone around in turn 6, so the 78 car, don't see any damage. So we'll see how that affects Marcel. Everybody using the toe, it's, you know, it's going to help you for sure, but then if something like what happens in turn 1 somebody goes a little wide, it may ruin the rest of your lap. So there's pros and cons for trying to be in the draft. Jennifer McDonald has our provisional pole time as the rest of the cars come by the lap and the times propagate. McDonald in the 139s as Costa gets a little close to the back of Leighton Cater there, and he has to back out of that. And you can see now he says, okay, I've had enough of this drafting stuff. Just give me some clean track and so I can get a lap in. A 39.857 for Jen McDonald on pole. The pole leader, the points leader at the moment. Hayden Fowler is going to be fighting all day up there. A 140.193, so 0.3 of a second is the gap. There's John Dinkle, as we were talking about, a 40.319, a great lap, and he's currently third ahead of Max Riebensteiner. Cater and Costa, then Hensel, who was first around the track, has dropped to 7th with his 43.253. Mark Sonnen is on track, but yet to set a time. Is he on track? No, Mark Sonnen is not on track. Because he's serving a penalty. Get your heads screwed on straight. We saw that last race at Road Atlanta. Of course, Mark had a spin and automatically hit the teleport button to the pits. And that's right, he is serving a qualifying penalty for that. It was a non-intentional reflex, but unfortunately it's a black and white rule, and there's no changing that. So Mark in the pits, he will start at the back of the GTE field here today. Marcel Struff with 3 green sectors this lap as Dinkle goes off in turn 1. We've seen 3 cars now do that as the most difficult braking point on the circuit, for sure. I think everybody would agree. Hayden Fowler immediately erases Jen McDonald's purple first sector and sets one of his own. Running the all-blue Corvette this week. A little bit of black trim in there, but that's a new color scheme for the 28 car. No improvements on times in sectors 2 and 3. McDonald is up ahead, just coming into the bus stop. And again, no improvement in sector 4. I have to 99 coming around without the benefit of a tow here. Hensel is up the circuit a little ways. I'm not sure how much that's helping. He's improved to a 40.3, so that puts Kevin on the outside of row number 2. McDonald does not improve, a 40.1 that time around. Max Riebensteiner, 140.130 puts the 14 BMW on the front row and is immediately supplanted by the 28. Fowler rode that purple first sector to a 39.999 as Costa. A little bit of a tank slapper coming out of the chicane at the exit of the pits. He's got to get back onto the proper side of the circuit here. He can't cut across the grass. Well done. Don't do it. Don't do it. He's just waiting for Grana to go by. Yes, he is. Attaboy, Chris. As we get back to the action, there is Fowler and Dinkle. Jonathan has dropped all the way to 5th now with that 40.3. It is again staggeringly close in GTE. Less than half a second. Well, let's go down one more. Half a second separate the top 6. The front 3 rows all within half a second of each other, and with the draft and the long straights here, that could mean a very tight race in GTE today. I can't wait for that. And not much of a gap going back down, other than Struve, who's having a little bit of troubles. It is slippery out here, and he hasn't really set a representative time yet. But he is green on this. He's just come out of the first sector, and he is green. So hopefully we'll get a time here from Marcel. As the drafting tandem hits the pit road, the American manufacturers playing nice together here. Fowler and actually everybody has made it down into pit road as they're all going to split this. Jen McDonald currently on provisional pole with Hayden Fowler beside Riebensteiner and Cater in row 2. There is Marcel Struve. He's having his best lap by far. Green in all sectors. Coming around to the bus stop. I mentioned 6 splits. There are really only 5 here, so that's my bad, as the rest of the field now coming out. We're going to cut back to Marcel, who is now through the bus stop with a 4 out of 4 green sectors, so we're going to see an actual lap time here. He's got that car hooked up, and the tires up to pressure. Marcel will come through Daytona NASCAR turn 4 down the front straightaway. The times look good, actually. Not bad sector times at all, and Marcel does move up to 7th with a 1:41.237. And that'll put him inside of row 4 with 5 minutes to go here in qualifying. Getting a little blinky on us there, Leighton. Hopefully that doesn't continue through the race. Leighton is also, well, he's South United States, not Southwest like Rainey is. But what is going on down there with the intraweb? It's coming around to start fast laps, I believe. A little bit of a tow. Fowler needs 1.5 tenths to put that 28 car on pole. As we're watching the cars come through the first sectors. And Jen McDonald, who is just behind here, 2 cars behind the 28, has gone green sector 1. So has Riebensteiner. Struve and Costa both also green in sector 1. So we're going to see multiple lap time improvements here. Groninger and Costa in the pits. Cater here. Captain Blinky is green in sectors 2 and 3. And I'm not sure how much of a tow he's giving with that car going in and out. I'm going to put the camera on somebody else. Let's put it on the 28, who's going to cross the line first. Fowler improves in sector 4, not in the other ones. So we have green sectors kind of spread all over the board. We're going to see some improvements here for sure. Riebensteiner, 3 green sectors. He's vying for the front row again. Tucked right in, trying to get that pole position. Here comes Fowler. He does a 1:39.694. What does that do for the 99 car? Riebensteiner retakes it. A 1:39.654. McDonald improves but drops to the second row. And I really hope our times are accurate here, as we had them off a little bit last race. But as it sits, Hensel moves back into the inside of row 3. John Dinkel down to 6th. Leighton Cater maintains his 4th position. Everybody, I'm sure, still on hot laps here. Rubensteiner coming out of turn 6 and going on to the banking. Cater with 2 green sectors, as does Dinkel. Groninga, 2 green sectors to start his line, to start his lap. So the 59 car looking to get himself up off of row 5. He needs an improvement of 7/10, so that's got to be a good lap. He's doing it. John tucks into the toe. He only needs 1/10 of a second to flip spots with Hensel, but will not do it. 2 green sectors, but it's a 42-1, so we saw some issues somewhere. Where was that? It was the last sector, so maybe a bad exit out of the bus stop. And this will be the final laps. Rubensteiner has gone to the pits. Currently your pole sitter in GTE with Hayden Fowler in the 28 car sitting in second. Jen McDonald inside row 2 with Leighton Cater. Kevin Hensel and John Dinkel in row 3. Marcel Struff and Chris Costa, row 4. Steve Groninga and Mark Sonnen will line up in row 5. And Groninga with 3 green sectors does improve to a 41.533, but not enough to overtake Costa. And Fowler is not setting the world on fire on this lap, so I do not believe he's going to move into pole. You may actually see these cars come down pit road as the clock has run down. And they will call it a session and get the race tires and setup on these cars as we get ready for 2 hours around Daytona International Road Circuit. Max Riebensteiner, debuting in the GTE class, has put his M8 on pole with a 139.654, half a tenth ahead of Hayden Fowler in the 28 car, a 139.694. Jen McDonald, series championship leader, will line up inside row 2, exactly 1/10 of a second off Riebensteiner's time. She'll line up beside Leighton Cater in the C8R. Row number 3, Kevin Hensel and John Dinkel, as we run down the cars in the 1-minute 40s. Marcel Struff inside row number 4 will line up beside Chris Costa, and Steve Groninga inside row 5 with Mark Sonnen, who has now served his teleporting penalty and is free to go. Everybody in the pits now getting their race setups on, and we will line up. It's a half pace lap here. They'll line up just before the bus stop. And there is Dawson Hess in his second race, but the first time he's actually got that car to the grid. So I can't wait to see how he fares up front there with the 2 Unleashed cars, all very close. And the time's not that far apart. Usually what we call the second pack in LMP. With the draft here, we might see 6 cars all together. There is Brommel. Just waiting for Rotter to make an appearance, and then I think we are good to go. There is Dennis now. And the Porsche 911 pace car will start rolling, and we'll be ready here for 2 hours at Daytona, race number 5 in the Night Racing League Sports Car Championship. And we are off. The GTEs hang back, of course, for a 15-second gap. Everybody will be on the banking, so this is one of the more fair starts we have. Road Atlanta was something. Everybody did very, very well there with a difficult downhill blind corner start for the LMPs. At least the GTEs had the back straight, but had the chicane as their first corner, so everything much more straightforward here at Daytona, and they are lined up very nicely in LMP. Everybody goes on the green lights as Riebensteiner runs them through the bus stop. And when the pace car makes a sharp left, it won't be long before the lights go on. Everybody lined up beautifully, a little bit back for Rotter. Like to see those cars beside each other. He does close that up a little bit. The green lights are on. It's a good, fair start, and we are go for 2 hours at the Daytona International Road Circuit. A very good start. The GTEs are away behind. And down inside is McDonald, a little touch, and around goes the 28 of Hayden Fowler. Riebensteiner pushed out wide. I believe there was contact after the spin. The rest of the field is back clean. Meanwhile, in LMP, Schwarz making a run on Seeley in the 72 car. And he's locked the rear brakes. The 72 is around, locks it down. No contact as he was about to slide in front of Ellico. Dean will take the 5th place. All action early here in both classes, but everybody away relatively clean. There is Dawson Hess, who has moved himself up to 2nd place. And the GTEs, and what we expect is going to be a thick pack of cars all day long, comes on to the turn 2 banking. Up front, completing lap number 1, as we see in behind Dennis Rotter down on the inside. There's no yellow line rule here, and he has retaken 2nd place from Dawson Hess. Hess redives into turn 1. Fantastic stuff, back and forth. As Riebensteiner now is alongside Costa, we see them going by. John Dinkel now dropping back behind Mark Sonnen, who's making his way up through the field. Not qualifying, of course. Out a little wide is Riebensteiner, and Costa will retake that position. Side by side they're going to go. As Struth gets it wrong. I don't believe there's contact. Sonnen definitely does make contact. So down in the International Horseshoe, things hotting up. We're back with this 2nd place battle. Rotter all over Dawson Hess. Thomas Brommel, because of this action behind him, is able to open up a 2-second gap here early. And nothing makes your afternoon better here at Daytona is if you can break the draft of that group behind you. Rotter now maybe deciding to sit back. He's got the toe. Will complete lap number 2 here. Jen McDonald is now in the lead in GTE as a little bit of contact with Riebensteiner in the turn 1, but it was Fowler that got spun and collected Riebensteiner, so Jen promoted to the lead from row 2. Leighton Cater is second with Kevin Hensel in third. There's Marcel Struve. He's dropped down to 9th place. Fowler in the pits. So damage on the 28 car, obviously bad enough that he wanted to come down and get it looked at. Riebensteiner also in the pits behind him on a circuit that is low downforce and very high speeds. They're going to get this taken care of early. Riebensteiner coming straight through. Did he collect 8 incident points? 4 for McDonald? Would have been too quick to collect another 4 with Fowler. Sonnen in the pits. What is going on? And he's got damage. So as things settle in here, let's see if we can find out what happened after a very eventful start. First, let's have a look at the GTEs. Wrong replay. Here we go. It's a very clean start, and you see Jen McDonald getting that inside line. Little bit of contact, and that looked like net code between Fowler and Riebensteiner. Later on in the lap, the 72 car, here they are coming down into turn 5. This is the LMP start. You see the 72 already loose on the brakes. That gives Andreas Schwarz the run, and then it's just, he just locked the rears. He's got the bias too far back, and around goes the car. And if we can see what happened to the 111 down into turn 1, a little loose. Oh, and he center punches the pit wall. So that is why the 111 is in the pits. We rejoin live action, the second place battle for LMP, as Dennis Rotter maybe has decided as he watches his teammate pull away. Oh, he's got a great run though here. It's a 4-second gap now up to Thomas Brommel, who's done exactly what he needs to do. He needs to finish a race. He needs to get this car around, and what better place to do it than in first? Rotter does have a bit of a point lead here that he can play with, so is this a strategy run? It's a 42 point. As Hess is off and into the tire barrier at the International Horseshoe. Rotter promoted to second, and that car looks like it's stuck in the barriers. And Hess has had to get that back to the pits with a tow, and big damage on the front of the 67, who was running fantastically here in what is essentially his first race of the season. That promotes everybody in LMP. As we rejoin the GTE field here now, there's Jed McDonald just off the top of the screen. Leighton Cater, and what we're told is a one-off race, running in second place. We have a car spun in the background. It's Chris Costa. And Sonnen is around, coming out of the horseshoe in front there, so we got Corvettes sliding everywhere. Very loose. These guys waiting for the track temperatures to come up. It was very cool, 20 degrees when we started the lobby. We're at 23 degrees now. And Struve has gone around again. We saw him dropping down, and that's put some damage on the left front. Marcel running the Night Racing League logos there. Thanks for that. He's got him on all four corners. Look at that. Good stuff. And Marcel in 8th place, and he's now got himself in front of the LMP leader who's coming through now, Thomas Brommel, who'll get him very easily on the banking where it's nice and safe. Deep breath, 10 minutes, and we've had drivers with problems here. Leighton Cater now has dropped to 3rd. Kevin Hensel has overtaken him. I'm sorry we missed that with all the action going on. There's Sonnen coming out of the pits. So he does have the 111 car back together after center punching the pit road wall. Hopefully now we can get settled in and see what these cars have. Currently quickest on the track is your race leader in LMP. That's Thomas Brommel. He just did a 33.7. Dennis Rotter now, who has been released with Dawson Hess in the pits, is the quickest of the 134s. Schwarz also in the low 34s. Seeley in the low 134s, recovering from that spin on lap 1. Ellico a second back in the 429. Here's your race leader in GTE. And regarding turn 1, the stewards have had a look at that. And it was clearly a gap in there. They're calling the contact between the 99 and the 14 a racing incident. Usually the way it goes on the start, unless you clearly blow your braking zone and take somebody out. Unfortunately, the consequence of that was Riebensteiner's car did not actually hit the 28, but with all of the bumping and banging there, and probably exacerbated by the fact that Fowler is Western Canada and Riebensteiner is in Austria. That's quite a geographical distance, so the ping difference may have led a little bit to that net code as well. Unfortunate for that, actually, looking down, Fowler is still in the pits, so that's going to have a little bit of a impact on the points. Fowler only 16 points behind Jen McDonald coming into this race. Jen on an even 100, Hayden Fowler 84, with Volters not here. So Fowler actually is going to have to, I believe, 2 points for 10th. So if that's where he finishes, he's going to pull into a tie with Jens as we leave Daytona, but it could have been much, much better. As we look back, Chris Costa has now shaken the 59 of Steve Groninga. As the gaps have settled, we had this hope for this hugely close GTE battle based on the qualifying times, and they've gotten themselves strung out with all of the shenanigans that went on early. A lot of people seem to be caught out with how slippery the track was there at the start of the race. Everything's continued over from qualifying, so other than Sonnen, they should all have had a pretty good idea of how it was. And even having said that, it was a 30 minutes. Oh, Jonathan Dinkel just saves it there. Doesn't actually go around, but loses a little bit of time. And it does seem to be rear end grip that these cars are all struggling with here today. So that's the 14 of Riebensteiner. And he is coming by Mark Sonnen, and there's a lap difference there. 2 laps behind the 14 car, so that was a blue flag pass. What a shame we've gotten strung out a little bit here. Brommel with a 6.5 second lead over Rotter. And curious things here. 33.5, that's pretty much race pace that we would have expected from the 4 car. Dennis Rotter, 34.3. You see him just coming off the banking of turn 2 as Brommel goes into the bus stop. I'm going to go on board with the 111 here. Sorry, the 011. And that may explain a lot, what you just heard right there. A lot of guys lifting and coasting to save fuel. He's actually dipping the clutch. We're going to take a lap here with the 011 and see if that was just because he was coming up on 2 GTE cars, or if this is a strategy, because it could explain the lap times. Almost a second difference. Although Brommel with traffic did a 35.4, so that's not representative. It's a little early as well on the throttle lift. But we'll see what Dennis does here coming into the bus stop and then again into turn 1. The LMP class in this series are famous for multiple strategies. We usually have at least 3 and sometimes more. Oh, way off, and dipping the clutch again. So Rotter is going for major fuel save. He's got a 5-second gap over Andreas Schwarz in the 204. He's got a huge point lead on his teammate, so maybe is willing to sacrifice a win here. Or maybe this strategy is going to get him, he finds a way to overcome that pace difference. Let's see what he does here. All right, so this is definitely, there's no traffic in front there. As we cut back to our race leader, the 4 of Thomas Brommel, as Mark Sonnen has lost the rear end in turn 1. That car very loose today. Okay, so with 5 cars, Dawson has retired the 67. That car well and truly done, as Sonnen is starting to make a meal out of this one. We now watch John Dinkel, and that was the 28 of Hayden Fowler back on circuit. All right, let's try and get some storylines going here. As only 5 cars in the LMP, and obviously we're seeing 2 different strategies out of the gate out front. We now have Brommel back out of traffic in his customary 33s. He's turning a very consistent 1 minute 33.7s in and around plus minus a tenth. Rotter seems happy to be turning laps a second slower. He's got a 5-second gap on Andreas Schwarz, but he is using the draft and dipping the clutch at the end of the long straightaways. And that's going to be saving massive amounts of fuel. And unless that 5-second gap starts to come down, I don't see any reason why he's going to stop doing that. There's Schwarz in the background. It was a 33.999 the last time around from 111, saving fuel. Schwarz a 34.831. He was actually slower than Seeley on that last lap. Again, you got to take traffic into account, and the Canadian only 2.5 seconds behind. So that's shaping up to be our battle in LMP at the moment. There is the 72 just coming out of turn number 6. And he does have eyes on the back of Schwarz. There he is. On board the 72 now. So it was a lazy, well, it's 2 races in a row the Canadian has swapped the back end, allowed the rear axle to pass the front axle. But it hasn't cost him. There was no contact. No, it's cost him, but he's still got eyes on the 204. So the story in LMP, other than the fuel savings by Rotter and where that strategy is going to play itself out, we do have a race here for the final podium position. There's no clutch dipping there. Seeley is on it, trying to get himself back up in touch. We're on the same straights, and you watch that gap. It is currently 3.4 seconds, the gap from 3rd to 4th place, and Seeley here is stuck in behind a couple of GTEs. And this early in the race, he's not going to press the points. No, not even a pass into turn 6. So very, very cautious. It's going to cost some time for sure. But some big picture thinking maybe there by the 72 car. You still can see him. The gap is now 4 seconds. So definitely cost him there. Riebensteiner, after a spectacular pole position, finds himself running in 6th place. He is on the lead lap. And absolutely half a lap behind the race leader, Jen McDonald, in the 99. Riebensteiner there in the bus stop, just entering the bus stop as Jen McDonald crossed the start-finish line to start lap number 13. Riebensteiner making his GTE debut with a drive-through penalty after, what was it, like 3 or 4 laps. But he's all good. He's on the lead lap, and he's got the pace. See how far up he can get that M8. He's passes Costa. We were just watching that. No, Costa's coming back at him. But Riebensteiner maintains it, so up to 5th. And more work to do up front, though, as it's a 15-second gap to the Ford GT of John Dinkel. Dennis Rotter, another second added to the lead. He is in ultra fuel saving, and that gap to Schwarz is actually increasing. He's got it up to 6 seconds. This is a 3-stop race for the LMPs. I'm sure it's a 2-stop race for the GTEs. Maybe somebody can shoot me a... just confirm that this is probably a 2-stop strategy in the GTE class. Dinkel doing very well here. He's allowed Fowler to go through. Fowler is, of course, multiple laps down, 7 to be exact. And so there's no sense fighting him. He's tucked himself up in behind and is actually using that draft, so maybe a little fuel savings there as well. There's your GTE leader, Jennifer McDonald. A 4-second gap over Kevin Hensel as that third place battle in LMP comes by. Seeley goes by Hensel as McDonald is passed by Schwarz. Marcel Struff has made it into the pits. And Seeley's got that gap down to 3.7 now. As John gets passed by Dean Ellico. Here's the onboard from the Ford. Very wide by the 429, and that's not going to help. Dean's got it all gathered up. Get back on with business. A nice exit. We'll see if John wants to swap this position back. There's not a battle for position. The 28 car 7 laps down after that turn 1 net code. What a shame there for the third place car in points. Jonathan does not look like he's flipping the throttle and saving some fuel. Hayden's car is running well. He's doing 1 minute 40.6, so it's really only a little less than a second off the qualifying times. So that's a good pace, and if Jonathan can save fuel, all the better. He knows he's got the pole sitter chasing him down, but he's in the tow and he's able to maintain that gap. It's been 15 seconds since Riebensteiner got past Chris Costa a few laps back. And the gap has not really come down at all, so this is working out well for the 229. Just looking up at the timing screens. Of course, we don't have the sector times on the broadcast. I've got them on a separate monitor, and I see a green sector 2 for Dennis Rotter, which is very odd. And the fuel saving, it just caught me by surprise. I looked over and said, what? That gap now 11.3 seconds in LMP, but the gap to watch there is not from first to second. It's from second to third as he is fuel saving, and we'll see what that's going to gain him. It's a 3-stop race for LMP, and it's a fairly hefty fuel. It's a splash and go, you would say, but these cars hold 75 liters. I'm thinking it's going to be well in the 20s if they're burning the fuel that they burn during the race. So it'd be very interesting to see how much fuel he can save there by dipping the clutch. Most people are just lifting and coasting. He's actually dipping the clutch and doing 0 throttle. As Dinkel and Fowler continue around. Brommel still turning high 33s as Seeley is past Schwarz. The battle for third is on as Andreas made a little bit of a mistake And with only a 3-second gap, Seeley all over it, and these two are now in a proper ding-dong for the final championship, for the final podium position in LMP. Seeley on the defensive line into the chicane. That's going to give Schwarz the tow down the back straight, as Dinkel has now finally gone by the 28 car, if it started to hold him up at all. But Paul Seeley, after a mistake again early on, it was lap 2 at Road Atlanta, it was lap 1 here, all by himself, locking the rear. Schwarz has a look. But we've got another installment of Seeley-Schwarz here in LMP. They have had some great ones. Remember Sebring, an entire stint of racing like this. We've got an hour and 31 left in this one. And it's even going. One mistake by both drivers, and they are together on track. And with 30 minutes gone here, we probably should be getting set for LMP pit stops soon. As a great run, and absolutely not holding back around the outside into the bus stop, and Andreas Schwarz retakes third position right on his tail. Is Seeley? As we check back in there, those are the closest two cars running in GTE, but we're not going to watch that because it's not a battle for position. Seeley is on the outside again. And the 72 crosses the stripe first and will take third again in turn number 1. Fantastic stuff as the pit stops are coming up. Interesting to think about. Seeley was the faster qualifier. He was 4th, Schwarz was 5th. So this may be why Seeley is fighting so hard to stay in front. He's got the pit stall further down pit road, and if he's behind Schwarz, his entry into the box will be blinded slightly by the 204 car, who has to stop one stall before him. So with only minutes to go until these cars come down pit road, that's one reason I'm sure why it's vitally important for the 72 to stay in front, at least until the pit stop. As they come through turn number 2. He's now got himself a little bit of a breather here, but he's got to be well in front to break that draft. And as you can see, the 204 coming right back at him. Oh, and a nice power slide there. On board now with Andreas. Certainly got the closing speed on braking. Not a lot of defending there. That's not really a passing spot unless you somebody in front of you did something wrong. A little bit of a correction coming up into turn 7. Turn 7, of course, NASCAR turn 1. And not close enough this time around as we're completing lap number 21. bit of grass by the Canadian. And a good run out of the bus stop here, but Seeley's also got a tow. But as he pulls out into the air, Andreas is going to have the advantage. And he's up on the outside. And it's Andreas Schwarz back to third. Seeley tucks it in on the exit, but there's nothing going there. These two continue to battle back and forth as you see the race leader in the background coming out of the infield section. Mark Sonnen has made his way into the pits in the GTE class, and that was a drive-through penalty. Mark's had some adventures, so we have a couple of drivers who have got themselves up to 8x. As Sonnen Schwarz a fantastic exit out of turn 6 there, and has actually given himself a bit of a breather here. Seeley would, he's going to have to close that up a little bit. That's a big gap. Thomas Brommel has made it into pit road. As in behind comes this battle for third, and now Seeley still trying to get up in front. But you're going to see here, he's going to have a compromised pit entry. Dennis Rotter, saving all that fuel, has gone around again. He has the temporary race lead. Schwarz down in. Seeley's going to have to go through, and you see him creeping up, definitely compromised on the entry to pit road. Brommel is out. Dean Ellico has gone through in the 429, so he will take over third place. Dean always gets great fuel economy. As we wait here, Brommel was stopped for 24 seconds. That seems a little short. These guys, Schwarz 33 is about where it is, and he is out first. Seeley gets released. But the positions stay the same, especially with that slower entry. This is the new pit exit. Just been updated here at Daytona. They are pit road speed all the way around to the chicane, whereas earlier it was the limiter came off at the end of the pit boxes. So Schwarz out in third, Seeley fourth, and we're just going to look at those pit road times. Yes, it was an additional second. They were both stopped. 33.7 for Seeley, 33.8 for... So 33.7 for Schwarz, 33.8 for Seeley, so 1/10 there, but a full second longer on pit road for Seeley, and that was the entry into the box. So as these two head back out now, they have taken full fuel. Thomas Brommel, only 24 seconds stopped, 9 seconds less, so he is evening out this race, it looks like. That is clearly not a full fuel for the race leader. Dean Ellico has made it down into pit road from his third place position. And Andreas Schwarz has broken that draft a little bit on the 72 car. Here's Seeley using his night racing compatriot for a little bit of a tow. But he is going to have to get that car tucked back up. Ellico in the pits has now dropped back to fifth position as these two come by. And a very, very good turn one. A nice power slide by the 72. Both cars still on their original rubber. And he's closed that gap up. If he can keep in the draft, Rotter has made it into the pits after lap 24. As Groningen, I'm not going to say Groningen went off there. It looked like Dinkel was a little bit loose in behind, and I think Steve just lifted off the brake pedal so that he wouldn't get touched in the back end. No harm, no foul there, I guess. Groningen is a lap behind the 229. So that was a blue flag pass anyway. But well done by the 59 car there to keep them from having contact. It looked like John was on the limit of adhesion there coming into the fifth corner. Dennis Rotter still in the pits as these two come around. He's just now rejoining the circuit. And so that gap down to third place looks like it is 17 seconds. We know it was about... Well, it was about 5 seconds to be fair, but we know Schwarz had a little bit of an off that we didn't see, and that's what set up this battle for third. The gap, the 3 to 4 second gap that he had on Seeley evaporated in a corner, and we believe it was corner 5, right where they are right now. That's when the cameras swapped over to Seeley trying to make a pass. So in the second of what we expect will be 4 stints, 3 of them are full stints, and then a short fill to get home after that third pit stop. As we get a shot of Jennifer McDonald, the next car to be passed by this battle, the race leader in GTE. And we haven't seen much of these front runners in GTE today with the other stuff going on. But it is only a 5-second gap to Kevin Hensel. Kevin having a great run today, and he's kept this car clean, whereas a lot of people have not. Have had lots of fun. And as we just check in, McDonald hits pit road, as does Hensel in behind. So 40 minutes into the race, which clearly confirms a 2-stopper for the GTE class. The top 2 are in, and in behind the 199 of Leighton Cater as well. So all of the GTEs coming down. Dinkel also in behind. 2 more cars on the lead lap are Riebensteiner. There he is, taking that shallow entry. Ooh, and a lockup after the line. We'll see if that was pit road speed limit friendly. And as he hits pit road, or the pit box with his M8, the race leader exits her pit box in her M8. And in the black with blue trim Night Racing Esports C8R, Kevin Hensel comes out, and it's a 4.7 gap. That's a little closer, isn't it? Let's check the pit times. McDonald stopped. Well, the pit times don't back me up on that. McDonald stopped for 26.6 seconds. Hensel for 27.2. And pit road times, not much in it. 0.3 of a second. McDonald on pit road less than Hensel. Hensel on pit road 0.3 of a second from entry to exit, longer. But the gap is 4.2 seconds. And they've got a 7-second gap now. Jonathan Dinkel, let's just check in on that. Well, Cater is third. He is 6 seconds behind Hensel. Another 6 back to this car, and that 15-second gap is the one we were looking at. It has come down. Riebensteiner now, you see 2 pit stops beside his name. He had a drive-through penalty, so he's been on pit road twice, and that's why he's back there. involved in that turn 1 touch, and then he had another one somewhere else. But that gap has come down. It's 11.6 seconds by my math. So we will continue to watch that as Max Riebensteiner, the pole sitter in GTE, continues to try and get his car back up closer to where he qualified in his GTE debut. Of course, Max drove the LMP class last season. Back to this battle. Seeley and Schwarz. Seeley in the tow. On board with the Canadian. And these two have rocketed to the top of what really is a 5-car, anybody could win on any given day pack of LMP cars that we have. Unfortunately, Dean Alico not completely happy with his setup, I don't think. And the other two not here today. So we've got a great battle here for 3rd place. All 5 of these guys drive pretty much exactly the same lap times. Although, if there are bragging rights, you have to give it to Andre Schwarz, the Road Atlanta winner. And we're just gonna stay on board here and see. They were having such a fight before the pit stop, and yeah, it's not the same motivation here. Seeley definitely saving fuel. And we know these guys have pitted on the same lap, so on the subject of fuel saving, Dennis Rotter, 2 more laps run than the race leader, his teammate Thomas Brommel. As Thomas starts his 7th lap since the pit stop, as Dennis Rotter comes around, he is 29, well, say 30 seconds behind. But 2 laps, if that translates to another 2 laps, let's just go have a look here. We're going to get an onboard here now of Dennis. Yeah, so he's running this play, smoke in front. You can see a car. There's one. That was our 2nd place car in GTE with a little bit of smoke. So Dennis running this play, if he got 2 extra laps that time around, 2 extra laps on this stop. Remember, there's 3 full stints before that splash and go. He's assumed about 20... doing the math. I wonder if he's trying to go here for a 2-stopper. Doesn't seem likely when you think about it. As we head back to the battle for 3rd, we know there's some fuel saving going on here. But Seeley looks very content at the moment to keep his rival where he can see him. and breathe on the straights. As long as he can keep that toe, strategy goes completely out of the window as Ellico is around. That's in turn 5. And he was making a pass on Mark Sonnen. Didn't see any contact there. But back on circuit. Lap 30 in the books. And we've got 71 minutes remaining here in race 5 at Daytona. The league in going back to full throttle recruitment. So if you want to be part of this race, there's 3 races left in season 2. And the big announcement there with the summer months and some of the availability, they're going to be sprint races now. 60-minute races at the Nürburgring, at Spa-Francorchamps, and then we finish the season off at Le Mans. So they should be tighter, quicker races. And then the league is going to be running special events over the summer to bolster the numbers and get up to 50 members for Season 3 that will kick off in the fall. Basically the same sort of date range that we had in Season 1 when the Night Racing League came to iRacing. But they were going to have some special events and maybe even some different cars. There's talk of some GT3. There's talk of some team racing, which would be interesting. We have a lot of drivers here. The best part about this series, of course, is that all of these guys run special events, and they run the 6-hour endurance series on iRacing. So there's no better place to work on your setups and get ready for those events than to run 90-minute and 2-hour endurance races here in the Night Racing League. So you see multiple cars running the same paint schemes, and these are all drivers who race together in the 6-hour, 24-hour races. As Seeley takes a dive down the inside of turn number 6, Andreas Schwarz got a little caught up behind the 199 of Leighton Cater. Seeley takes advantage and puts his car right back out front. In the toe. Here comes Andreas back at him. We know Seeley was saving fuel, so a little surprising he put that car down there. And he's backing right off. Okay, so Schwarz puts it back out on the outside. He shows Paul that he's interested still in running in that podium position. Seeley off the throttle, even though he had the inside line, says, okay, you go back. As the 14 car just saw on there, he spun into the bus stop. The 14, Max Riebensteiner, had taken 4th place from John Dinkel in the draft, and now he's spun it in the bus stop, and the 229 is promoted back up to 4th place. And I'm sorry we didn't see that gap come down. Maybe Dinkel had a little bit of a moment as well. But it is a 10-second gap again with that spin. As we cut back to the LMP battle, now that we've had the pit stops, we always do a field rundown, so why don't we get that one done? And you can check out all of the drivers we've got here. Finally, having a race his own way after dominating qualifying, having one of the quickest cars we've seen in LMP this season. It's the 4 of Thomas Brummel, who is leading in the Unleashed car. He leads his teammate Dennis Rotter by 33.3 seconds. However, that lead may not be quite representative of what's really going on, as Brommel has been turning laps very consistently in the high 33s, now in the low 34s as the tires come down a little bit. Dennis Rotter is not interested in chasing down his teammate. He's been saving fuel since the drop of the green flag, or probably since Dawson Hess went off, which was the battle he was in. He's been saving fuel so aggressively that from the onboard cameras, we've heard him dipping the clutch as far as 300 to 400 meters before a corner. He went 2 laps further on his first stint, and we will monitor the length of time he gets on this second stint over his teammate. In third place, it's the 2:04 at the moment of Andreas Schwarz. Andreas took the position from the 72 of Paul Seeley, who runs right behind him, when Seeley spun on lap number 1, locking the rear brakes into turn number 6 on a very cold circuit. Schwarz pounced and ran most of the first stint about 3 to 4 seconds ahead of the Canadian until he had an issue late in the first stint. That kicked off a huge battle between the two that ran all the way to the pit stops, where Schwarz did come down pit road first. Seeley has seemed content to run behind him, saving fuel here in the second stint, although did momentarily go by when Leighton Cater turned into an opportunistic pick. At the bus stop, Seeley let him back by, and we are status quo here with an hour and 5 minutes remaining. The only other LMP on circuit is the 429 of Dean Ellico. Dean has had a couple of issues and has been running pretty much on his own all day. He's a little more than a minute and behind Seeley and is 1 lap down to the race leaders. Dawson has started but only made 5 laps before going off at the International Horseshoe. Up front in GTE, it's the 99 of Jennifer McDonald. Jennifer started 3rd inside row 2 after a spectacularly close qualifying in this class. The top 3 rows separated by only half a second and a 1/10 of a second between the top 4. Jennifer's had a little bit, I wouldn't say a comfortable lead, but enough to keep out of the draft of the 94 of Kevin Hensel. There you see as the camera pans back, the 7.2 second gap to the 94. This could be a great points day for Kevin, still trying to recover from that 10th place in Sebring. However, he's had 2 top 5s and a 6th at Watkins Glen. This podium position, if he can hold on to it, would do wonders for him in the points battle. Running in 3rd is the 199 of Leighton Cater. There is Leighton. This is Leighton's first appearance in Season 2, and from what we hear, will be his last appearance. Leighton runs the C8R program at Night Racing Esports and devotes so much time to that running another series, as we've got engine problems in the 59 of Steve Groninga. Has he picked up some damage up front? So as we say, Leighton making a single run here and doing quite well in 3rd place in the 199. It's been all fun all day for the 229 of John Dinkle as he continues to push his way to the front of the GTE field. We've seen a couple of little moments for him, but he's kept the car clean and has been very quick. Currently trying to keep himself in front of the 14 of Max Riebensteiner. You think John's had a fun day. Max qualified on pole in the 14, was involved in a little bit of a scuffle that was deemed a racing incident with Jen McDonald, the 2 BMWs with damage on opposite sides of their car. He then unfortunately had a net code incident off of that, which spun the 28 of Hayden Fowler. Max got himself up to 4th place, passing Jonathan Dinkle on the back straightaway, but then spun in the bus stop, trying to complete that pass. He's in 5th place, but is closing what was a 10-second gap. It's now 6. We'll see if he can get back up and have a battle for 4th. Running in 6th place is the 111 of Mark Sonnen. Mark is 3 laps off the race lead after he had a loose condition coming through turn number 1 and center punched the pit road wall just at the part of the circuit he's going past right now. After a couple of laps worth of repair and a tow back to pit road, Mark has recovered and has that car in a solid 6th place ahead of the 78 of Marcel Struth. The cold conditions here have really made a lot of these cars loose and caught out many drivers. Marcel is 4 laps off the race lead, but running well and currently has himself in 7th. On pit road is the 8th place car and the 9th place car in GTE. And we just saw the 59 of Steve Groninga pulling into the pits with smoke coming from the back of that car, and we believe he has a blown engine. I haven't seen, I want to get a little bit of a shot up here. I don't see a ton of damage on the front of that car, so I'll be very curious to find out if he has blown an engine as to what contributed to that. Chris Costa is in the pits in front of him also, and he's been there for 12 minutes, so not sure if that's repair or if that's a retirement. Those cars run ahead of Hayden Fowler, who had all his troubles on lap 1. Of course, spun with net code, and it collected the 14 of Max Riebensteiner. Hayden is trying to recover. He is currently completing lap 29, and as you see, passes the stationary car of Chris Costa. The next time he comes by, he will take 8th place as he surpasses the number of laps completed by Steve Groninga. That's your race rundown as we rejoin the battle for 3rd place, the closest battle on circuit at the moment, as Thomas Brommel has made it to pit road. And that car is on the jacks for tires. Just trying to get a closer look here. Yep, down off the jacks, so with a big lead and his teammates saving fuel in behind, Thomas Brommel is going to drop temporarily to 4th place. And we saw a short fuel on his first stop. It is another short fuel with tires here, so he's splitting the race into quarters. And with fresh rubber for the final hour here, he should be very good shape to possibly turn this into a race win. And boy, is that ever what the doctor ordered for Thomas after 3 disappointing finishes this season. We'll watch and see. He came in 2 laps before Rotter did for his first pit stop. And we'll see how far this clutch dipping fuel saving is going to get Rotter on this one. I mean, Brommel on 38 laps complete. So if Dennis gets 2 more, he should come in after 42. I mean, that's pretty simple math. As we've got the 2 GTEs together, that is Riebensteiner. A little lock up there from Dinkle. And the 14 car is back into 4th place. He was closing down the 229 very quickly, and he's got it done. There's a little puff of smoke in front. That's one of the night racing cars, and I have to say, the the gloss gold rims were so nice on Dean Ellicoe's car. That is Dean. That Seeley, here is Seeley now. He decided to switch over to the same gloss rims, but it, on distant shots, makes it very difficult to tell which car we're looking at there. So we'll have to blame the 72 for that one. And we'll see... Ooh, and that's a little brush on the wall. I was going to say, we're going to see if John can hold the toe the way he did for that long stint behind Hayden Fowler. But already, and especially with that little bump, ooh, as Roder decides to go inside, the LMPs have been passing on the right all day long, so that one I think caught John by a little surprise. That was actually brought up in the drivers' meeting. I can't remember who asked that. But no harm, no foul, and Dennis is by safely. But the gap already expanded up to 4 seconds, so it looks like Max Riebensteiner is going to shake the 229. 55 minutes, we got half the race to go. It's a tall order to get back to the podium. Leighton Cater has been on track, running very consistent laps, and it's just shy of a 30-second gap to the podium, so Max has got a very tall order if he wants to try and do that. Lap times, he was 0.3 of a second that time by to Leighton Cater. I'd be surprised if he could pull back 30 seconds on the sharp end of the field, even though he's a member of that sharp end. That's a long gap. These two continue to go at it. 34.5, 35.0, 34.5 the last time around. So Seeley is keeping him honest, even though you really don't get the impression he wants to pass him. I think when he did down here in turn 6, it caught him by surprise. They were coming up on Cater, and Schwartz decided, you know what, I'm not going to try and dive down on the inside. I'm just going to let up a little early and let the Corvette go through. And Seeley came up and said, oh, he's slowing down, and just let it keep going on the inside. They swapped back on the next corner, but the 72 very content, it seems, this stint at least, to run in behind. And he has been saving fuel. We went on board and heard some lift and coast there. This is where we find out where the strategies go. The 011, as Seeley is by Schwartz. So a little bit of a bobble coming out of the bus stop, and they have swapped positions again. This time, Seeley does not let off early. So the Canadian back onto the podium as Schwartz, certainly presenting his car like he wants to be up there. Not interested in fuel savings. We were just talking about Roder is on lap 42. So this is the lap that we are interested to see if the 011 comes down. We're not going to cut to that because this... Oh! And a little bit of a four-wheel lockup. Schwartz, that's the second time turn 5 has bit him. And that's going to give Seeley a little bit of breathing room here as we're very, very close to the second pit stops. We already know Brommel, who's on short fills, came in early. But we expect... Yeah, no, it's not going to be lap 42. When I said that out loud, of course, Brommel short-filled. These guys are all on full fuel. It's not going to be lap 42. And Roder proves me right as he's gone around, and now I'm trying desperately to think what the lap number was that these guys came down. It was 22, wasn't it? So that would mean lap 44 for Schwartz and Seeley, although Seeley's been saving, so 2 laps, that's 46. Maybe another 2. It could be lap 48 until we see the 011. Now here is Andreas Schwarz coming by Jonathan Dinkel as Marcel Struff has gone off. That is in turn 5. All right, so now that I've talked through our LMP strategy, I think I've got it a little more accurately. And we'll see Seeley and Schwarz, who came down together, so let's see lap 44 possibly. We again have at least 3 strategies, even though we're down to 5 cars in the prototype class. We know of at least 3 different strategies. Whoop. Again, wanting to pass on the inside. And you can see how that sort of took Ellico by surprise there as well, so. Again, no harm, no foul, but not as elegant as that could have been for a blue flag pass. Dennis Rotter is currently your race leader. As we just saw Struff go off in turn 5, he is in the pits. Rotter very consistently at 34.5 seconds. And here's Andreas Schwarz. The tables have absolutely flipped because he is now 4 seconds back of Seeley. Exactly where Seeley was for most of the first stint. It was a 3 to 4 second gap. And the cars are now on lap 44. Rotter completes lap 44. So we'll see if Seeley and or Schwarz make the run down to pit road. Seeley is not. Schwarz is. Okay, so Schwarz right on target, as he did 22 laps on his first stint. He did 22 laps on his second stint. The 72 car, who sat in the slipstream for most of that second stint, has gone around again. And so, surprise, surprise, with 5 LMP cars, we now have at least 4 different strategies going on here. As Rotter is turning the race, Brommel has turned the race into quarters, so he's off sequence. Rotter is in major fuel-saving mode, and by my calculations, he's getting 2 extra laps per stint. He's going to be out there till at least lap 48. Schwarz is in the pits, and he is taking tires. With 48 minutes, we saw Brommel take tires, but it was a bit of a free stop. Schwarz is in a tooth and nail fight for a podium position here with the 72. And that is 28 seconds to put fresh tires on. He's out and running now. Ellico passes him while he makes his way out of pit exit. We cut back to the 72, so Seeley has got 1 extra lap from running in the slipstream for that second stint. And we'll see what the 72 does here. As Brommel goes back by into second place, he's 22 seconds behind his teammate, who we are still waiting to stop. We think it may be as many as 3 more laps. Seeley locking up those tires. I'm sure he has no idea that the 204 car took rubber. So he's probably thinking he's got to save every tenth he can. Still doing the fuel on that car. We'll wait and see if it goes up in the air. Fuel is done, and away goes the 72, so no tires for the Canadian. And as Schwarz enters the bus stop, it was a 4-second lead when Schwarz came down pit road. It's going to be much larger than that now by a pit stop, or by a tire stop, rather. And Paul Seeley will rejoin in third place. We're watching his teammate Dean Ellico here in the 429. So Seeley is 26 seconds ahead of Schwarz. So, as red mirrors, I believe that is Struff. Marcel's around, and that's turn 6. And a tow back to pits for the German. So Andreas Schwarz now. Fresh tires, and boy, it's all math. We know these guys all have one more pit stop. Except maybe the 011. I mean, we got to wait and see. He's currently running lap 47. And don't expect, where is Roder? He's just now entering the bus stop. He's actually 2 cars ahead of Andreas here on track. So he's a lap ahead of the field until he makes his pit stop. Here is Dennis. And he's not coming down. And he's passing on the right. Attaboy, Dennis. Maybe two freights were enough. As Schwarz gets by the 429 of Ellico. Ellico's in the pits, so that was not a pass on circuit. As we get a look at the BTL Motorsports BMW M8 of Jennifer McDonald, still leading in GTE. 9.5 seconds, the gap now over Kevin Hensel. And Jennifer, 14-point lead over Volters coming into this race. And so a race win here is going to open up that GTE championship a little bit for the Series 1 champion. And it's a big shame that the teammates couldn't be here today, Volters and Seninger. It's actually the second race Seninger has missed. Although talking to them earlier in the week, they are both here for the remainder of the season, all 3 races. But dug a little bit of a hole here. There are no drop races in the KRL. It gets talked about on the Discord, but this is the best series to race in. If you're looking for realistic driving, low incident limits, the drivers are so good. You watch the streams here of this league, and seeing cars going into corners like you just saw there, indistinguishable from watching a real race on TV. So if you want to race in the best place, you come and race here as Dinkel goes off. But if you want to win the championship, you've got to be here to race. There are no drop races. Seeley coming onto the banking at Daytona NASCAR Turn 1. And he has a 22-second gap as, just see the flash of green on the screen there. Hayden Fowler has now passed the stationary car of Marcel Struff. So the 28, recovering from problems not his own, has got it back up to 7th. So adding points, and that will, of course, overtake. He will be second in points It was only a 2-point gap to Jens Wolters, which would have gone away anyway with a 10th place finish, but now up to 7th. Hayden Fowler is continuing to add points. The next jump is a tough one, as it's a 4-lap gap up to the 111 of Mark Sonnen. Here's Brommel still running in second. He's pulling down that gap to Rotter, who is still out. Just now coming in. There he is. He's in the pits now, but as you can see, he's going to cross the line. That is 49 laps complete. So he actually did an additional lap on that second stint. And let's see what happens here. We know Brommel took tires. He is going to retake the lead here, but Brommel is going to have a relatively similar pit stop to what he's done all race long. 118 on pit road was his last stop. He took his short fuel, which was about 22 seconds. We know he took tires. So if you subtract that out, he's doing about 55-second pit stops. And we expect about the same. Oh boy. Oh, that's fantastic. I did not want to see that car go up on the Jackson. It doesn't. So Dennis Rotter now. 40 minutes. He's done, do that math in your head. He's done 80 minutes on 2 stops, and he's got 40 minutes to go in this race. Dipping the clutch, saving fuel. I think the 011 can go to the end of the race. He hasn't taken tires. We know Brommel has got to do a stop that's going to cost him about the better part of a minute. So what is the gap? It's 38.8 seconds from Rotter to Brommel. This is going to be fascinating to see how this plays out. We know Rotter is not going to be able to turn those 33.8s and 34.0s like Brommel is doing. But if Thomas is in the pits for, let's say, 58 seconds, let's say a minute to make the math easier, the gap is 40 seconds. So that means, in theory, Dennis Rotter could be 20 seconds up the road. Now, that gap is clearly going to come down as Rotter has to get the same fuel mileage he's been getting all race. He's been giving up about a second a lap. So that means 22, 24 seconds a stint. It is very, very close. And we'll see what the lap times are as they get themselves settled here for the final 40 minutes at Daytona. There is Max Riebensteiner. And that gap has not come down, unfortunately. We sort of surmised it wouldn't. The top 3 are all running very similar lap times in the low 141s. Riebensteiner as well. And when he got himself clear of John Dinkel in the 229, it's that 30-second gap is still a 30-second gap. But it's good to see Max here. His first race in Season 2. We hope to see... we have a very large group of German drivers in this series, and we'll be at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit in 2 weeks. Everybody, of course, getting ready for the 24 hours on the Nordschleife as Mark Sonnen has gone off in the bus stop. And that car, again, has stuck itself into the wall. Up front, we've got pit stops happening in GTE, so let's head there now. The top 3 are all there. Jen McDonald is out of the box first. A 10-second lead coming into the pits. We expect Kevin Hensel will shoot out next. There he goes. So the gap's not changing much. Oh, tires with 36 minutes remaining. And Leighton Cater has had enough with those Michelins, and he is going to put on rubber. How is that going to affect the gap to Max Riebensteiner? Maybe a little glimmer of hope for the 14 car. That was a 30-second gap, and we know it takes the better part of 28 seconds to put tires on, so we'll watch that one. Riebensteiner is in the pits, so this will be very interesting to see what the 14 car does. Is he up on the jacks? If he's on the jacks, you can disregard everything we just said on the commentary. That car certainly looks like it might be airborne. The 199 is back out. And away goes. Riebensteiner stopped for 53 seconds. Cater stopped for 54 seconds. So yes, that is fuel and tires for both cars. Unable to get round for the entire 2 hours on the same set. And that 30-second gap, I imagine, is going to still be very close to a 30-second gap. The gap to third place, Andre Schwarz now has got it down to 18 seconds. So we have two LMP scenarios playing themselves out here. The fascinating one is for the race win. Thomas Brommel going flat chat, turning the race into quarters, took tires with an hour to go. Dennis Rotter has been saving fuel, there's Dennis there, all race long, and has gotten himself to a position where we believe he can make this race on only 2 stops. He will not have to pit for fuel, and he has not taken tires. And so, with about a 1-minute pit stop, and then you've got to take into account slowing down and speeding up, Dennis Rotter is only 45 seconds behind, so that's going to increase as he has to continue saving fuel. To get to the end, he needs the same mileage that he's been getting all race. But we believe there's 15 seconds to play with there. Thomas Brommel, I think, has to get that gap over a minute. Certainly, any more above that to make it comfortable for him to come down pit road, get his final stop, which will be a long one compared to everyone else who's going to be getting splashes. But he and Rotter should come out very close indeed, and we'll have a race for the win. The other battle in LMP is a little more straightforward. There's Andreas in 4th place, and he is definitely closing down on Seeley. He took tires also on his second stop. Seeley is still on his original rubber. The 72 car went 1 lap further, and he will have a slightly shorter splash and go at the end of the race, but the big thing we're waiting to see here is, can Andreas Schwarz close down what was a 22-second gap, which was accumulated when he took tires on his second pit stop? If he can close that down, he will have better grip to the finish line. Both he and Seeley will have similar short fuels. Seeley's slightly shorter. Thomas Brommel is in. So this is it. The 4 car on pit road. Rotter goes by, will take the lead. And we'll have 32 minutes. We saw a puff of smoke. I think it was Max Riebensteiner, though. There is Rotter. And there is Brommel. So similar situations here now. Fresh tires. chasing down fuel savers. The gap is just under 8 seconds. Check in with the 5th place car. That is Dean Ellico. Turned into a little bit of a lonely drive for the Floridian. And there is Seeley. The gap now 16 seconds. But Schwarz definitely closing it down. Andreas was actually the fastest car on circuit last lap around, as Brommel made his pit stop, a 35.571. So he clearly has the grip. Contrast that to Seeley, who actually had a pretty good lap, 35.974. The track is getting very hot, well into the 30s now. And with worn tires, they do not have anywhere near the grip they had at the beginning of this race on cooler temperatures. The race started just after 10 a.m. sim time, and we are now approaching noon. And as you can see, not very many clouds for the entire event. Schwarz comes by the line and puts in a 35.286. And that is a second quicker than the car he's chasing that time around as they completed the 55th circuit. He comes by the GTE leader. Very deep into turn 5 there, but everything under control. He's got to push. Andreas has made his bed here. He took the tires, and now he's got to use them. Seeley really starting to struggle as he's dropped into the 36s. Have to wonder how much rubber is left on those rims. Coming by his GTE teammate. Thomas Brommel is back on it. 34.6 that time around. And the gap down to 6.2 seconds to his teammate. So we are going to have a battle for the lead here, and just under a half an hour to go. Everybody looking forward to the Nürburgring for the next fortnight. Everybody doing the 24 hours? I'm not sure. We know Night Racing has got a car going in, running the Audi, and I imagine a lot of the GT drivers will be participating in the 24 hours next weekend. And then they'll close the doors to the countryside, and the Night Racing League will run a 60-minute race on the GP circuit in 2 weeks. We're expecting a big field there. As we say, we have a large number of German drivers in this series, and everybody has been looking forward to coming home and racing at the Nürburgring. As Dennis Rotter starts his 58th lap, and you can see in the background, Thomas Brommel now has the gap down to 6. And unfortunately for Dennis, there is not much he can do. Speaking of making your bed, he's got to get the same fuel mileage, he has turned this race into 3 40-minute stints. And we're going to go on board and just see if he's having to do, I assume he's going to hit the clutch here in a second. Yep. And he's going to have to do that all the way to the end. The gap down to 5 seconds, and Brommel is going to get the tow here soon. So we'll see what happens. I imagine Thomas Brommel is going to get by. You hear the engine shut off as he comes down the straight. I think Dennis's play here as Leighton Cater comes into the pits. Again, why is Leighton Cater in the pits? It's not a drive-through, but this... He's getting tires again. That's going to promote Max Riebensteiner to the podium. This is an unscheduled stop, and that's the second time we've seen the car go up on jacks. So happy Christmas, Max. You are now on the podium. Back to our original thought. I imagine the play here for Dennis, as the gap is now down to 4.2 seconds, is Thomas is going to pass him. He's got to keep saving this fuel, and then he's going to drop into the slipstream and see if he can hold it and save enough fuel to make a run at him at the end of the race. John Dinkel has been promoted to 4th as Leighton Cater sits in the pits still. And this is a long stop. Has he retired that car? I don't know what's going on. We did see the 59 of Groningen actually blow an engine. So is there some kind of setup problem here that the Corvettes are starting to succumb to? The 4 car continues to inch its way closer. Roder gets by the 111 of Mark Sonnen. Quickly check in with Hensel. Again, not much action up front today at GTE. And it's a 20-second gap. McDonald leads Hensel. Thomas Brommel now through the banking. 3.5 seconds the gap. And plenty of time. He was 0.8 quicker than Dennis Roder that last time around. The gap between 3rd and 4th is also still coming down. Fresh tires chasing old tires there as well. It is now 10 seconds between Seeley and Schwarz. We'll watch that gap as the final 23 minutes go by here. The leaders cross the line another 0.6 of a second. As the dot on the horizon continues to grow and morph into the back end of Dennis's Roder's 0111. fastest car on the circuit the last time around with a 35.1. The lap times have come down by almost 1.5 seconds since the start of this race. That's due to track temperature. But it's even more concerning for the first and third place cars as they're on the original rubber they started this race with. Dennis Rodder trying to get to the end on 2 stops. Something coming into this race I would never have thought could be done. It's been a master class in fuel saving by the 011. We'll see if it pays off. The 4 car is going to catch him, visibly closing in the braking zone there in turn 1. Fresh rubber and not having to save fuel. It's a huge advantage for the 4 car. We'll see if the 111, we assume he's going to get past. We'll see if he can maintain his car in the tow and save enough fuel to somehow take a stab at him for the win at the end of the race. The gap to third to fourth is now under 9 seconds as Schwartz continues to reel in the 72. Those cars have still yet to make their final splash and go. The 2 cars we're watching here, we believe are done. We know Brommel is, and we believe Rodder can make it to the end. Getting the benefit of some GTE cars up ahead. Dennis Rodder gets by Kevin Hensel. We're coming through the GTE leaders now. Brommel gets a tow from Hensel and now pulls in behind John Dinkle in the 229. This might actually... He still gains on Rodder. This might actually add a 10th to a lap time. Still closing the gap, even through the traffic. Next is Hayden Fowler. Ooh, I thought he was going to go in there. He very, very wisely decides he can wait one more corner. Actually waits 2 more corners, but I don't think that's going to be much of an issue. The gap third to fourth is now 7 seconds. We continue to watch that. Right now the battle is for the lead. Only 1 second separate these 2 teammates running wildly different strategies. We're about to find out which one of them planned the best one. "18 minutes to go in the 2 hours of Daytona here in the Night Racing League Sports Car Championship. Dennis Rodder leads Thomas Brommel by that much, as a little deep on the brakes goes Thomas. No contact. He collects it up, and we'll have to pull that last second in one more time. It's been a long day running alone, saving fuel for Dennis Rodder. He saved all his fun for the final 15 minutes of this race, as Thomas Brommel is now on his tail. The gap third to fourth is now 5 seconds. And I'm pretty sure that is close enough. We might see, well, I'd hate to say a dive into turn 1. Thomas Brommel definitely in the tow. Let's see if he's... You hear the clutch dump again. Brommel does have the inside line. He's a little more careful. There's a wiggle on the back end by Rotter, and that... The old tires coming into play, and that is going to give the lead to Thomas Brommel. Can Dennis keep his car in the tow? If he can, he'll be able to save even more fuel because he'll have to half throttle the car down the straightaways, then do his clutch dump. It should be able to save enough fuel to have a little bit of a fight at the end, but he's got to keep the car close. Ellico's making his final pit stop. The gap third to fourth is now 3 seconds. And Rotter, oh, it's... You can still hear that clutch being depressed. He's got to keep that car close. A good exit. Here's the 72 car, and just back is the 204. "15 minutes left on the clock. Rotter definitely has it. You hear the engine drop off. What a great day for the Unleashed team here at Daytona. They're 26 seconds ahead of that battle for third. Of course, more than that, as we know, those cars have to come and pit. Hayden Fowler makes up another position in GTE as the 199 of Leighton Cater has retired. Not sure what's going on with the Corvettes there, but we've had a couple now retire in suspicious circumstances. Groninga, actually, as I say that, is back out. So, although that engine was trying to blow itself up, he was in pit road long enough. How long was his pit stop? 42 minutes. But they've got whatever gremlin was wrong with that engine and got him back out on track. We'll see. He is 6 laps behind Marcel Struff, who is out of the race. Maybe Steve can make himself up a position and finish in 8th place. I don't believe there's enough time left for him to catch Leighton Cater, who's completed 54 laps. Groninga currently on his 34th lap. Dennis Rotter right in the tow. I would bet my house he's not going to make a passing attempt. He needs that draft to save enough fuel to maybe have a little run at the end of this race against the pole sitter and teammate Thomas Brommel. The gap 2 seconds, third to fourth. We'll switch back and forth as that story unfolds. Schwarz is in the pits. So now we know Seeley stopped a lap after him last time. So the pit times are going to be what it's all about here. Still stopped. And away, 16.3 seconds to get the fuel to go to the end. Andreas Schwarz stops after lap 66. Seeley went 1 lap further. He was, of course, saving fuel behind Schwarz in the second stint. Has not had that luxury, so we expect Seeley may be down after this lap. 67 as Groninga gets split. Rotter again goes on the left, and yeah, I'm not sure Steve was too pleased with that. Shorter distance, I don't know. I'd have stayed in the tow behind the 4 car and made the pass that way, but fun all around, and he still has his car where he needs it. Where is the 72? Just coming around NASCAR 4. And no, he's going around again. So Seeley will complete 68 laps. So he did get an extra lap this stint. Rotter Brommel, a very good application of power there, and looks like he's pulled a little bit of a gap as they come back onto the banking. If he can break this tow, that would be game over for the 011, I would think. Fresher tires and no fuel saving needed for the 4 car, so if he can somehow get that gap, look at it, it's a second now. This could be the race for the win right here. What we're seeing, 10 minutes left at Daytona. And a push. The 111 goes very deep. Surprisingly, I'm not sure it opened that gap up at all. He may have gotten away with that. Maybe Thomas was distracted in his mirror and watched that and didn't get a good exit from turn 1, but the gap is still 9/10 of a second. The 72 car is on pit road. The battle for third. And we will compare 16.3 seconds stopped for Schwarz. Seeley will have to get less fuel. Brommel and Rotter come back onto the banking. And the gap is just over a second. Seeley is away. 11.4 seconds stopped. So he gained 5 seconds on pit road. Schwarz deep into 1, goes into a 4-wheel drift, and it will come around on him. So pushing, trying to get that gap down. He lost time on pit road, and that might settle the battle for the final podium spot as well. Ellico actually gets by. He'll get himself right out of the way there. Teammate or not, ahead. Schwarz, I mean, let's face it, Schwarz is also a teammate. He's just running a different livery. But that puts the gap at 10 seconds. And just what the doctor ordered for the Canadian. Trying to get, I'm wanting to look here. I just want to confirm, yes, this could be the Canadians' first podium this season. So he's got an 11-second gap. And Brommel now has his stretch to 1.7. All the planning, all the spectacular driving. And he had the tow for quite a while there. But it looks like Dennis Rotter, with the older tires as well, is not going to be able to hold on to the back end. Thomas Brommel has been perfect all day. He had the pole position. He's been turning fast laps of the race. And it looks like his strategy is going to play out. And he will finally get that top step of the podium that he's been working for. 3 disappointing race results. All coming good today here at Daytona. Less than 7 minutes to go. Kevin Hensel in the 94, as we'll just check back with some of our other GT cars. That gap has really opened up now, as the GTE cars really just getting their cars home. Max Riebensteiner there in the 14. I'm still not really quite sure how he's in third place, but what a debut in the BMW for Max. A fantastic pole position and an unfortunate turn one, but he's got it all the way back and looks to be finishing on the podium. Jennifer McDonald will come home with her 5th podium in 5 races. Stop me if that sounds familiar. And this would be her first win of Season 2. She had 1 win in Season 1, I believe. I mean, Interlagos stands out. I'm not sure if there was another one. I'd have to go back and look through the records. But finishing on the podium every race, that's what champions do. And another great one for the 99 car here today. She will start her 68th lap. And Steve Groninga there, getting that car back out. That's what endurance racers do. And he has overtaken the 78 car. He was in the pits for 42 minutes when that engine tried to blow itself up. Got the car fixed, and he's moved himself up a position with 4 minutes left on the clock. Paul Seeley in the 72, looking for his first podium in the KRL. After a mistake early, used some strategy to make that final splash and go. He ended up saving 3 laps of fuel over Andreas Schwarz. And that 5 seconds in the pits got him out ahead. He's got 8 seconds now on the 204. As things settle in, we had a lot of scenarios play themselves out there in the last 15 minutes. But now as we got to the last 5, it's about just bringing the cars home. After what turned into a pretty interesting race, it must be said, especially in LMP. We had a couple of scenarios, and again, 4 different strategies play themselves out. And some great battles, especially the end of the first stint. Boy, Seeley and Schwarz again. We look back to Sebring and so many other races. But that was a fantastic one here today. There is the 72 with his Canadian teammate in the GTE Corvette C8R, Hayden Fowler. Hayden has got to be considering how this day started. And again, that's what endurance racers do. Hayden has, even though 7 laps down, has ran pretty much a perfect race since he got back on track. And we know that car is still hampered from some of the damage suffered early. But he's going to clock himself a 6th place finish here today, and that will give him 2nd place in the points. As Riebensteiner is here behind the 111 of Mark Sonnen. Not a battle for position. He'll patiently probably wait until the banking to get by. As Thomas Brommel comes around, and with 50 seconds remaining on the clock, he will start his final lap here at Daytona. And just checking, McDonald is just coming onto the banking at turn 6, so it'll be the LMPs finishing up first, and then we'll have pretty much the GTEs all to ourselves on track, as they won't start their final lap for a little bit. Dennis Rotter has accepted his fate, has dropped 8 seconds back. His job, once he lost the tow, is make sure there's enough fuel in that car to get to the checkered flag. And a very good day in the points anyway for the 0111. He will maintain his point lead here, especially with the absence of Andre Heinrich, who we will see back at the Nürburgring. But after 2 podiums in the first 3 races, and being taken out on the first lap in the last 3, Thomas Brommel has put it all together and will win the 2 hours at Daytona. Dennis Rotter comes home in second place after an incredible drive, only 2 pit stops. Jennifer McDonald now on her final lap. Kevin Hensel has crossed the finish line behind the leaders. So Jennifer has this lap all to herself. Kind of a victory lap in the GTE. Riebensteiner has finished in 3rd place. And although a little scuffle in turn 1, a perfect drive for 2 hours for the 99. Jennifer McDonald wins at Daytona. And in behind, his first podium in the KRL, a 3rd place for the 72 of Paul Seeley. He'll finish ahead of the 204 of Andreas Schwarz. What a battle they had in LMP today. John Dinko comes in 4th place. Mark Sonnen, Hayden Fowler, a great recovery to 6th. Ahead of Cater, Groninga, and Struff. Costa, 10th. The LMPs, Brommel wins over Rotter. Seeley, 3rd. Schwarz in 4th. Dean Ellico will finish in 5th. And what that means for the points, the LMPs, Dennis Rotter now a commanding 55-point lead over Thomas Brommel. Andreas Schwarz just a single point behind his countryman. Andre Heinrich in 4th, now 69 points back, and Paul Seeley 5 behind him. Dean Ellico is in 6th. Stritter, Rainey, Schlabs not here today. 7th, 8th, and 9th. Dawson Hess collects points He now has 14 on the season. Jennifer McDonald extends her points lead in GTE with a race win here at Daytona. Hayden Fowler moves to second place despite his troubles early. Jens Wolters is in third, ahead of Kevin Hensel and Toby Sedinger. We'll see all those drivers in 2 weeks at the Nürburgring. Steve Groninga moves up in points to sixth place, ahead of John Dinkel. Mark Sonnen, Kevin Cordy rounds out the top 10. Got a great day here at Daytona, and we will see you in 2 weeks for 60 minutes at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit.